Today's topic really is about choosing sobriety every damn day. Every damn day. I have a feeling it's not going away anytime soon, and I needed that experience to humble myself and make sure that I was locked in to not drinking. I never want to have to go back and pick up a 24-hour chip.
Hey girl, you're listening to The Samantha Parker Show, an unhinged and insider look at the girl boss lifestyle. I'm like the best friend in your earbuds that you didn't know you've been craving. It's conversations from the girls' bathroom that are going to make you smile, inspire the hell out of you, and hype you up. You are not as crazy as you think. Life is a wild ride, and girl, I invented the roller coaster. So grab your favorite beverage and let's be unhinged together. So welcome to the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Samantha Parker Show. I feel like it's been a hot minute since I did a solo episode, so I'm like, let's fill you all in on sobriety. I hit my 9 months sober. I ran my race in Vegas. I did it sick AF, just another proof, if you need one, that sobriety is awesome, but it's also not everything is rainbows and sunshine. I would also say that I have spent the last couple of weeks since I ran in Vegas having the complete realization that I am an alcoholic. Surprise! I don't know if I was gaslighting myself for like a month or so, but I was like, am I really an alcoholic? Am I really? Is that me? Because I went to Vegas. I was having like a pink cloud moment where I didn't really care that alcohol was there. I was surrounded by amazing people. My friend Jen, who edits this podcast, she came, she was there, and it was really incredible. It was kind of magical, except for, having bronchitis. That's fine. We'll just put that in its own little box. It was really a magical moment. And I left Vegas thinking like, oh my gosh, alcohol doesn't even bother me anymore. And then God humbled me and reminded me, yes, Samantha, you are an alcoholic. So the weekend following Vegas, I had been sick all week too, you guys. I was in a low vibe space. I was not in like my super high vibe. I was not doing all the things that I tell everyone to do when it comes to sobriety. It wasn't okay. I just wasn't. I wasn't being the best alcoholic. I wasn't following all the tools in my little alcohol tool belt or my giant alcoholic backpack. And I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel good. And a moment caught me off guard. This is how it went down. Okay, maybe let me tell you the whole story. So I was over at my family's house, friends and family. Was hanging out at the pool. It was like so warm and sunny. I had a swimsuit on, and all of a sudden I was like, I have to leave. And I've heard this called the suddenly moments in AA, like suddenly you find yourself with a drink in hand. I didn't end up with a drink in my hand, but I came pretty damn close. And I think it was, the weather. I think it was everyone else was drinking and having fun, and something just hit me like, I can't be here. So I did what I do. I did take one of my little tool belts, took out the screwdriver or the wrench. I don't know which one we want it to be. And I was like, I'll go for a drive. Usually that does pretty good. I'm like, I'm going to drive down to the Maverick, which is an insanely popular gas station here in Utah. They're like freaking everywhere. I'm like, I will drive down to the Maverick and I'll get myself a water, because for some reason I didn't bring my hydro jug with me. And so I was raw dogging it, which do not ever do that. Do not ever, as a sober person, show up to a big pool party without your own drinks. There was a lot of steps here I missed. I always tell you guys, have a drink in hand, pack your own drinks, da-da-da-da-da. If it gets overwhelming, go for a drive. At least I was going for a drive, okay? So I go for a drive, find myself sitting in front of Maverick, and I was like, I'm going to go in. This was my suddenly moment. Suddenly I'm sitting in front of Maverick, and I'm like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to buy 3 Trulies. Trulies are like a sparkling alcoholic beverage, okay? Here in Utah, they cannot sell liquor in the liquor stores, but they can sell beer. So I just always think of it, it's like the girl version of beer, right? I'm like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to buy 3. I don't even like Trulies, to be honest. That was never my drink of choice. But I was like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to drink 3. I'm going to just drink them right here in the car. I'm going to throw them away at the gas pump, and then I'm going to go back. That's how I can handle going back. And I know what my brain was doing. My brain was coming up with a solution for a situation that didn't feel safe, because I wasn't calm at all. I was like full panic, like I can't be here. Like everything was crumbling. My brain was spiraling out of control. And so I think that's the solution that my alcoholic brain had come up with, was like, hey, this will keep you safe. This is great. You will go get those drinks and you'll go back. And I sat outside of Maverick for a good 45 minutes. It's funny because everyone's like, call me. And I'm like, so I had actually called people and I'm like, nobody is answering their phone. It's like a beautiful Saturday night. I think it's like 6 p.m. on a Saturday night. The sun is out. The weather is amazing. That spring weather is hitting. And I know, I'm like, you never expect people like to always pick up the phone, but I'm like, nobody picks up the phone. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, finally, I convinced myself like to get out of the car and go in. And I'm like, I'm not taking my ID in. And, the likelihood of them IDing me was small, but that was like my solution. So I went in, I bought a couple waters and I left. And I was like, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to go back to the pool. I could not go back. There was like no way I was going back. There was no way I was going to stay and go back. So it's so funny. So I know I'm going to get my stuff and leave. Okay. And I was going to have a quick chat with my husband and just tell him to Uber home. So I have that quick chat with my husband. It turns out I arrived just as they were singing happy birthday. No one notices when you leave, you guys. Like, never feel bad about leaving. Like, seriously, like nobody had even noticed that I had left. My sister had asked my husband, my sister notices everything. She had just quietly said to him, hey, where did Sam go? And he goes, I don't know, but I'm assuming she needed a break. And that was all that was ever said. It was like very quiet side conversation. So I get back, they're singing happy birthday, and I just quietly grabbed my bags and I left. But I was in full blown like spiral mode. I don't know what you would call it. And I knew I needed to do something. So I had looked up like AA meetings that night. So I went to an 8:00 AA meeting. And by that time I had talked to my sponsor and she's like, I'll meet you there. I'm going. So I met her there, went to an AA meeting. And then again, Sunday morning, I went back to an AA meeting. Monday, I went to an AA meeting and I got myself back on track. And I can see where I had failed myself. I don't know if it was failure either. I think sometimes we just need to be humbled and needed to be reminded. But I have spent probably like the week and a half-ish since then, 2 weeks, I guess, being like, oh my God, I am an alcoholic. My whole podcast, my social media, I talk about it nonstop. And it's not like I didn't know. I think I just needed that moment to prove it to myself. Like, I don't really know, you guys. But it really, really helped me see where I could do a lot better every single day and like armoring up, putting on my sobriety jacket, zipping it up, and making sure that I have at least prepared myself. So with that, let's crack open a Diet Coke, and I'm going to tell you guys how awesome sobriety is. I really wish I could say this episode was sponsored by Diet Coke. Wouldn't that be rad? I actually own Coca-Cola stock, side note. My dad said that you should always buy stock in the things you love, and so years ago he bought me Coca-Cola stock. Kind of funny, but here she is. I should probably buy some more. Oh no, actually I did. In one of my, like I have an investment app I use, and I actually do have Coca-Cola stock that I've been buying in there because it's really going well. Okay, but anyways, this is not a financial advice podcast. Don't ever listen to me for financial advice. Today's topic really is about choosing sobriety every damn day. Every damn day. I have a feeling it's not going away anytime soon, and I needed that pool experience to humble myself and make sure that I was locked in to not drinking. I never want to have to go back and pick up a 24-hour chip. That is like something I do not want to happen. I just got my 9-month chip, and I absolutely want it to stay that way. So you guys, when I woke up today, my alarm went off at 5. We just did that daylight savings time thing, and 5 is kind of feeling like 4, but my alarm went off at 5. I have committed to being at the gym by 6, which gives me an extra hour in the morning because normally I was getting there at 7. But when that alarm went off, the very first thought in my head was like, God, I am committed today to not drinking. And I really just said like a little prayer. And I think these are the things we have to do every single day to ensure that we have done everything that we can to not drink. You know, I don't want to drink. I really, really don't. Like deep down in my soul, I know that alcohol is not the best for me. I know that alcohol destroys pieces of your life. I, see people that I love who are still kind of struggling in that pattern. And I'm like, oh, if you gave it a shot, you would see how different life could be. But that's up to them. That's another tool I have in my tool belt. How many times are we going to say tool belt? Take a sip of Diet Coke every time I say it, okay? And by the end of this podcast, you'll just really have to pee. You won't be throwing up in the bushes. And that's the realization about sobriety, is like, it's not a one and done thing. It's a choice that we make every single day. Some days, really, really easy. Some days, my alcoholic brain flies through. It is like, you're amazing. And some days, out of nowhere, it wants to take me down. I think this episode and this conversation matters so much because no matter where you're at in your sobriety journey, maybe you're deep into it, maybe you're just new down the road, or maybe you're still sitting on the fence, kind of leaning over being sober curious. You really are in the right place. It's not always easy. It's not always fun. And if you're going through something, I don't want you to think that you're crazy. This is completely normal. This suddenly moments, these things that happen, they are completely normal. Sobriety really is like surrendering to the process of it and surrendering to a greater power, being like, hey, I don't think I can do this all by myself. I need some help, which, it's March. And if you go to AA, I don't think you have to go to AA to be sober. I just want to put that out there. I think I talk about that enough on my podcast that you guys know. It's a personal choice that I made and it's worked really well for me. But in AA, they follow the 12 steps and each step correlates with something different, obviously, right? And step 3 is really about surrendering our will. So today I am going to dive into step 3. If you're not in AA, I still think it'll apply to you. And I do. I know it's really, really hard, but sometimes you just have to surrender. Like I had to in that suddenly moment where I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where I'm going to go from here, but I surrendered and I went to a meeting and I let, kind of God take over from there. And please note too, as you listen to this podcast, I am very comfortable using the term God. You can insert whatever higher power floats your boat. I used to think that sobriety was really just about putting down the drink. But I have realized that sobriety is about choosing in every single day. It's really about choosing to deal with life instead of numbing life. But I have to keep it real. Some mornings I do not wake up feeling like a sober baddie. Some mornings I want to be drunk me. I'm like, yes, it would be easier to choose into drinking. Yes, it would be easier to go back to what feels comfortable. But I know it is not worth it. I have to constantly remind myself why I'm here and why I started. So really, you guys, when you're choosing in every single day, think about it. Like, what is your why? Why are you here? Why are you not drinking? And chase that with ridiculous passion and ridiculous resolve where no one else or no outside situation can really step in and block that flow. Okay, so step 3, I'm going to read it so I don't screw it up. But step 3 is we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. When I first heard this, I really was like, hold on, pause. What does that even mean? And I wish I could sit here and tell you what exactly it means, but that's something you really have to discover for yourself. And that's what I love about sobriety is there's no blanket you can put on it where you're like, here, just, get under this blanket where everything will be cozy and everything will be fine. You really have to discover what feels good to you and what feels comfortable to you. What I really have learned that it's not about giving up the control. It's about giving up the illusion that I was personally in control because I absolutely was not. So really my process was more about surrendering and just trusting that it was all going to work out. I can remember when I was working through step 3, it was summertime and they have it big on the wall at AA. And I was like, surrender. What does that mean? And I was like, I have no idea, honestly. I was like, I know that I can't go back to drinking. I know my only way is forward. And so I'm going to half-ass surrender or do the best job I can. And I'm just going to let go and see what happens. What I learned from working through step 3 and that summertime, I can remember I was still so deep in the shame then too, was that the more I let go of control, little by little, that control would slip away and I would see how great life was working out for me. And the really great thing about working the steps and applying them, even if you guys just take little nuggets from this and you're like, I will never go to AA, I will never work the steps, you're still getting little nuggets here that could be really good takeaways that you could apply to your life, because I was applying that letting go and surrendering thing to so many areas, not just the one hyperfixated area of alcohol. I started realizing why do I need to control what my family members do? Or why do I need to control business decisions so tightly? Why am I so like this? And the more I would let go, I could see how life was really happening for me and not to me. And that is such a beautiful gift in sobriety. So there's a point that you can get to in sobriety where you really start to live it versus overcomplicate it. So this is a fun little exercise that I think you guys can take and apply to your morning routines. Having a morning routine as an alcoholic is so important. Like I said, when I was going through my suddenly moment, suddenly was in front of Maverick, and I've had this realization, you are a blazing alcoholic, Samantha. I realized through all of that I need to get back on track and get way more serious with what I do. So a great little practice that you guys could implement, and I'm going to be implementing this a lot more as well, is just in the morning asking, like, what can I surrender to? What can I hand over to God? I've got like a business situation right now that is really like a little stressful, and it's going to take a couple weeks to get it all worked out and move through. That's life. You know, you guys might have like a couple crazy weeks at work, and then you might die down. If you're a tax accountant right now, like you're really, really busy, but you know, eventually there's another side and it's going to die down. I really had to implement that this morning when I woke up. I was like, oh, how am I going to make it through this? And I was like, I'm just going to give it to God. I'm just going to surrender a little tiny bit, and I'm just going to let it go. That's actually surrendering a lot for me, but I'm just going to surrender. I'm going to let it go. And that's something you can put into your practice as an alcoholic, is just letting some things go. And on the other side of that too, you really have to trust the process. You don't want to like white knuckle all of it and be like, but I let go. And then you're like, just kidding, come back. You just have to trust the process. I know that shitty things happen. And a lot of times when I look at those, or I'm like, oh, that wasn't what I wanted to happen. And when you're going through it, it sucks too. You're like, why is this happening? This is so shitty. But it's like, you know, when you get onto the other side of it, you're like, oh, I can see things. And not having alcohol there to numb it out, I'm not numbing out those experiences, and I'm not like continuously pulling back and going the wrong direction. I'm like, oh my gosh, I made it through the shitty rock patch. And I'm like, oh, look at that. Like, that's exactly where I was supposed to go. Even though it wasn't super fun, it wasn't as smooth. I couldn't numb. I couldn't dissociate. I couldn't go through the guilt and shame cycle and be hungover. I had to just keep moving forward. One of the best ways to really like reinforce all of this as well is to turn around and help others who are struggling. That's why I get on my podcast and I share. That's why I get on TikTok and I share, because I'm like, hey, let me share about my suddenly moment. Because God, dude, when you're going through it, it feels flipping crazy. And if I didn't have the community of other alcoholics where I could like share, I went through this moment, and they were like, I've been through that too. Like, I don't even know what I would do. I would feel like I had completely failed myself. I could see myself easily falling back into that trap. And I know when I'm focused on kind of helping others, sharing the journey, sharing the struggle, it really helps me stay out of that mental spiral as well. So I hope that's some tips for you guys that you can apply along your alcohol journey. I was going to say your alcoholic journey. I don't know if I like that, but yeah, that's what journey I'm on. I guess I signed up for the club somewhere before I came to Earth. It's hard to not drink, but it's also harder to be a drunk. Remember that, you guys. Okay, my sober besties, if you're looking for more sober support, head over to Sam's Sober Stack. We have it linked up in the show notes. And yeah, you can read all about my sobriety journeys, grab my 30-day sober journal, and connect with others in my cool little community on Substack. Do you guys love Substack? I'm loving Substack. And I know a lot of people are like coming over to Substack, so it might be something you guys want to check out. All right, cheers, besties.